Welcome back, listeners. Thanks for tuning in once again to the Daily Vibe. My name is Josh.
My name's Lane, and we are super excited for our next guest. He comes from, well, I met him in Colombia. He is a CEO and co founder of a company that Josh and I dabbled in. And he did so many great things for Colombia.
Yeah, so Joe's kind of coming on board and he's going to tell us more about Ukatsu and his plans for the future. So, Joe, why don't you just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, your goals with Ukatsu, and everything that happened there?
Yeah, well, first up, thanks for the awesome introduction. But I ran one of the nation's first youth wellness programs for young gamers, and still plan on continuing to do that. But of course, thanks to COVID-19 and the pandemic, we've had some major setbacks, and now I'm actually relocated from Columbia, Missouri, all the way back home to my parents' basement. Come full circle now
Kid's
into
dream.
Washington, into the Northern Virginia area. Yeah. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, of
Thanks.
course.
So first of all, Joe, I wanted to ask you what was the first steps in making Yukatsu? As far as like, okay, yes, this is the idea that we have, but as well as, okay, now what do we do from here? I mean, like this is a great idea. We want to be able to take it to the next level. And as far as you taking it to the next level, what were those steps that you took?
Yeah. So for those who don't know what Yukatsu is, like I said earlier, it's a youth wellness program for gamers. But think like summer camps, think one-on-one coaching sessions, think youth esports. All of that mixed into one giant operation. And so it's kind of an industry, a business that's never really been done before. When uh, when I first approached banks for business loan, they'd be like, "Man, just describe this ideal situation where gamers, young kids could gather and they'd have a safer space that's welcoming to them for them to invest their skills, their time to learn what it means to balance out their lives with gaming." And the banks were like, uh, sorry, we don't know what this, we don't know what this is. We can't give you a dime. And I was like, yeah, I try, I understand. So one of the first things that we did to start this kind of a business, because it was a service-driven business, a year-round kind of Boys and Girls Club or YMCA in a lot of ways, we actually went out to pitch for investment. And in Columbia, Missouri, which is a smaller town, by the way, it's 135,000 people in
Hmm.
that town, maybe a few more thousand surrounding the areas. So
Hmm.
not too many resources, not too many moguls, not too
Yeah.
many Silicon Valley tech startup accelerator funds going around. There are some pretty wealthy people there, but not in the same capacity at all
Yeah.
compared to
Uh-huh.
say California. So we were fortunate enough to land our first round of funding through the Missouri Innovation Center, which is backed by the University of Missouri, and they helped us kickstart that in person space. So we
Hmm.
were able to magically find a business space that we could rent out, and from there we just me and my business partner, we just cranked it out. We put in the hours to get it going, and eventually the parents, they came around to the idea. They came around to uh, the thought of dropping off their kids for almost the entire day or almost the entire week for a summer camp, just so they could play games, yes, but also learn everything in addition to that too.
Yeah. And like a
For
part of your program, I saw you guys did like YouTube lessons, like coding lessons, like game coding. How old did you kind of get these kids into like programs like that, or convince their parents to like let their kids learn about that type of stuff?
I think that was probably one of the easiest sells is teaching the professional development side of things. So when we built Yukatsu, we had these three pillars, right? We had gaming, which is obviously the esports, the competitive side of things, maybe just the enjoyment of something like Mario. And then we had wellness in the middle, which was both for the mind and body, whether you're working out with us or you're taking care of yourself mentally, which is another really big problem for today's youth, or
Yeah.
professional development. That's where you have, hey, look, in the situation, the ideal golden situation where you get a scholarship, where you get a professional contract with an esports org, you still have to have a backup plan for your career. Because
Mm-hmm.
once you hit 24 or 26, it's all over. You have to be able to move into another industry.
Yeah.
So it was super easy to say, look, hey, mom, dad, they hate YouTube. I'm going to be honest. They hate that their kids spend hours and hours and hours consuming YouTube, but there's actually a really good skill set when you convince a child you're going to be a YouTuber, you're going to go through our YouTubing class, but in reality, you're learning so much more, such as professional development in consistent hard work and dedication to your craft, public speaking, how to be good in front of a camera, how to reach out and cold call people for interviews and things like that. Those are all skill
Yeah.
sets that you can actually learn from the quote unquote YouTubing side of things. And that was actually my forte. That's something that I taught a lot. Coding, that's a no brainer. Like parents are always looking for coding camps, coding
Oh
classes for
yeah.
their kids. And when you could wrap it all up under gaming, right? It's not just, hey, don't go to just this video editing class. No, this is a YouTube gaming class. Suddenly the kids are way more interested.
Yeah.
It's the same lessons though, and the parents are on board too.
Yeah, so you were able to keep the parents happy by telling them that you're teaching their kids a bunch of professional skills, and the kids were happy because it had something to do with video games. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's always been our approach because the dynamic right now, and when I grew up, was I wanted to play games. My parents hated video games, but they still kind of, still bought me the video games too. The whole thing about Yukatsu and my personal mission is to get all of us onto the same team, right? Hey, we can use these tools for positive growth. And at the same time, there is a very real need for balance between staring at, my 144 hertz monitor over here, but then also going outside every now and then.
Yeah, yeah, it was so cool. I mean, watching all this stuff on Facebook, YouTube, even during COVID, you trying to keep people entertained throughout this, and also trying to get them to stay active. What were kind of some of the surrounding ideas around that? You just came in and you just did the same workouts, or was it like, okay, what can people do at home that that I have to come up with, and how much time did you know, research and dive into just to get one video, two videos, three videos. I mean,
Yeah, I mean the workload was tremendous. It's by far the longest 3 years of my life that I've spent on anything. The hardest I've worked on anything, and it's taught me a lot. But there's those little points that you came up with. You have to put full effort and energy into everything that you do. That was our
mhm,
tagline: "Play with a purpose." Every single moment has an intention, whether it's serious or maybe the intention is just to have fun, right?
Hmm.
But when it came to things like physical fitness and wellness, low key, one of the biggest gripes I have with the esports industry right now is that you see so many professional organizations saying, "Oh, we train our players to do exercise," and some do, some actually do. But then you see all these other organizations, maybe even new startup rival youth programs that bullet point this list of youth gamer wellness and fitness and nutrition. But then once you really dive into the program itself, once you spend some time observing them, you realize, oh no, they're just skimming over this subject. Whereas at
mhm,
Yukatsu, at least my approach was no, we need to prove to these kids that we mean business, in the sense that number one, we have to be pretty versed at the game. Like I always strive to be pretty decent at the game so that the kids would actually respect me. Otherwise, they just think it's another education type of program. They're going to get really turned off and be like, "Mom, Dad, what are you putting me through? These guys don't mean they're not real." But then after that, we work out with the kids, right? Like we're not just the PE teacher or the physical education teacher barking orders, do laps. No, we have to
mhm.
actually play the sports with the kids. We have to, you know, entertain them. We have to show them that we're just as committed too. And our workouts go hard. I'm not gonna lie. One of our kids lost 40 pounds over the
Oh
course
my
of the year.
word.
That's
There,
great.
there are moments where kids do have to take a rest, and there's no shame in that at all. There's moments when mentors have to take a rest because we're just going so hard. But that's something low key. I wish a lot more esports organizations would be honest about, especially the youth programs. I I get it. You want to put that little bullet point on your list to sell your program, but if you're not there working out with the kids or showing that that you have the discipline to commit to something like that, please, please, please just leave it out of your programming language, because that just ruins the experience for me, right? Or
Yeah.
somebody like me who's really authentic about that. And it's not just a bullet point list. I legitimately want to change the way gamers behave, and it's not just gamers now; it's everyone. You gotta move. You gotta take care of this body, or else it's just gonna go away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's extremely important for, I guess, young athletes to understand that in order to be good at their games, they got to be physically fit and they got to be mentally fit. I think a lot of gamers get into, well, I mean, they sit in front of their game for hours on end, not seeing the sun. Like that's gonna hurt them a little bit when it
yeah,
comes on the mental side.
yeah. I honestly, right now, if you're taking a look at the landscape of competitive gamers, I think it is possible to be a successful professional esports player without moving your legs, without getting a sweat on. It is very possible. And what
Yeah.
happens is players spend 12 to 14 hours a day training at the video game that they love. They're going to be really good at the video game. However, there is more to life than just a video game, as we've seen recently with headlines of depression, suicide,
Yeah.
all of these mental issues that are going on that are extrapolated even more by kids who are consuming media and content 24/7. You have to get out. You have to take care of your body, because those are contributing factors to your overall well-being. There's way more to life than just your ranking, just your SR in Overwatch.
Yeah. And was it very, oh, I guess, was it difficult for you to kind of explain to parents sometimes that video gaming or esports is an actual sport now? It's something that's growing very rapidly, something that these kids could actually make a living with.
So for that's a great question, and the answer is basically no. As soon as money was brought into the equation, because parents, they they have a love hate relationship with games. They know about, oh yeah, your dexterity and your small hand eye coordination. Those are skills you develop through gaming. Their biggest concern is, how much is too much, right?
Yeah.
And then, is this going to take my child anywhere? They're enjoying themselves right now, but where will they be 15 years from now? Will they still just be playing video games all day? But thanks to scholarships, thanks to $1 million paychecks, thanks to the esports industry, it's a lot more clear to the parents that no, this is a lot like traditional sports, where you can monetize this. Like traditional sports adds entertainment value, and so does esports too. It's not like a nurse, or anything like that, but at the same time, it's pretty respectable for a career path. And so that's not a problem whatsoever anymore. It's simply how much is too much, and are they missing out is what the parents are mostly concerned about.
And when you
Being the
say
last.
missing out, what do
Missing
you?
out on life, man.
Oh, okay,
I mean,
okay.
because so they're really concerned about their child not making real friends, because they didn't really grow up on the internet with connecting with strangers like I did. Actually, I was in a Call of Duty clan when I was 11 years old, and I met so many awesome people. They were like ex-military, doctors, and lawyers. I ran into a really wholesome group for some reason,
Wow.
but still, the
On
ability
Call of
to
Duty
go
of all
out
things.
and, yeah, exactly, have a relationship, right? Talk to somebody face to face. Soft skills are by far one of the biggest contributing factors to landing a job now. So if you don't have the soft skills, it's concerning.
So you told me a story when I first came into the circle of Yukatsu, because I asked a question of like, how do you differentiate athletes and esports athletes? And you said, well, they're kind of the same. I mean, if you look at golf and the skill set, that would you say that it's athletic or whatever? And we kind of talked about it, but the coolest story you ever told me was a kid was playing, I think it was Fortnite, um, and his dad came up to you and said, "I played football, and I don't understand any of this kind of video game stuff. But when I see him communicating with his teammates, I get it. It's all about teamwork. It's all about being able to still communicate. Like, the skill set they tell you in football is, I'm going to teach you how to work with the team. I'm going to teach you how to do your job, rely and let people rely on you to do that job, just the same way as this game does with, hey, if I don't do my job, we're not going to win the game.
Yeah, yeah, you're spot on, and that's because um, Ryukatsu was a physical facility, by the way. It was a physical building where
Mm-hmm.
kids come in, and we actually hosted. This is something that I really pride ourselves in what we accomplished here. We were the nation's. I'm pretty sure we were world's first and only legitimate LAN esports league, like ever. And I'm talking if you follow League of Legends, if you follow Overwatch League, I'm talking like kids show up to a facility to compete against another team. Everyone's there. There are stands and seats for parents and friends to sit and cheer, the kids on with. That's where that experience happened. That's where that college football dad could physically see uh, something very similar to a traditional sporting event, where if you closed your eyes, you wouldn't be able to tell if you were at a basketball game or an esports tournament, right? And so we had the equipment to run these physical events. Our first demonstration was at Hickman High School, and that's where that exchange had happened during one of our League of Legends exhibition matches. So I think, yes, we're now entering, thanks to the pandemic, a very digital heavy atmosphere, but there is
Mm-hmm.
still no substitute for an in-person experience whatsoever. And if you can't physically be there, that's when you have to record, right? I was a former esports videographer, and we made these videos that really showcased what the experience was like and how similar it was to the sporting event, and how the fans were there, the players were chatting up with each other. That's something that the Missouri Association, the High School Esports Association, has taken and shared across all of these different schools, because it really paints that picture for them. So it's super important than just sitting at home, one person, everyone's connected on the internet. That's effective to some extent for sure, but again, not a replacement whatsoever.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on just like speaking about high schools for a second, and I was hoping you could maybe tell the listeners more about the growth of esports in high schools and universities, the fact that we're starting to see universities travel to each other, university competitions and so on.
Yeah, I mean, so you have seen that everything up. Got my headset there. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, we
Yep.
can hear you great.
Okay. Well, for some reason, I can't hear you guys. Give me one sec. All
Can
right.
you
What about now? Can you? All right. There we go.
you can hear us now?
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. So on the
No, you're
subject
good.
of high school and youth esports, you had the professional scene that really set the tone of this is what it looks like. We can pay off $1 million paychecks. We got broadcast deals. Then you kind of have the academy teams, right? Who are like the pro-ams, the minor leagues. And then naturally the order of progression is collegiate, high school, and then Pee-wee, which is still, that's the one that's really getting I think it's going to have probably the biggest payout in terms of revenue source, just because Pee Wee leagues are crazy. But yeah, it's the natural order of things where you need to create a pipeline for esports athletes to legitimize that whole process. Because right now it's simply, well, let's take a look at the top 500 players at Overwatch. Let's take a look at the leaderboards in League of Legends and just hit them up that way. But these are minors, right? Some of these top 500 players are under 16 years old.
Yeah.
It's just something that we don't really realize until that moment where you see a Fortnite World Champs or World Cup, and like half the people can't qualify because they're under 13, but they're so dang good at the game. So the growth in youth esports is going to be astronomical. Right now, the funding for public schools and youth esports is, it's a little iffy. The bureaucracy of it all, public schools, is very slow to react. Same thing goes for the governing bodies of sports organizations for high schools, which is why you're seeing a lot of brand new organizations that are like, look, you guys, you stick with the traditional. We're actually going to create this whole thing because we are gamers ourselves. We know what to do. We're going to make the better call than you will. And it's not just like bass fishing or quiz bowl. This is much, much, much bigger than quiz bowl and bass fishing. Even though, respect to all those guys, but you have millions of kids who are playing these games now. And so, yeah, That's why you see big organizations popping up. Play BS is the one that comes to mind, where they raised $96 million to begin high school esports, just because they see the opportunity. Whether or not they are the most effective, that remains to be seen. But big players out there are hedging their bets on it.
Yeah, that was one of the when we went out to Mizzou and got to watch the Overwatch tournament there that you guys put on. That was the one thing that you said Play BS hasn't done yet, was the LAN tournament, and this was your second one that you guys had done with it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
The Play BS is a premier online league,
Mm-hmm.
and I think their model is charge the student X amount of dollars, which is perfectly fine. But I think it's solid. They have, because of their enormous amount of wealth, a lockdown exclusivity with licensing rights. Now that part I don't necessarily agree with, but yeah, what we were trying to do is something on the pro am or professional level uh, for these kids, because we wanted to make sure that they felt important. That was our number one priority, and that's why our Overwatch season that we held last fall, it actually sparked a lot of news on Reddit, and we even had like ex-pro players tuning in for a little bit, going, "Wow, this is a better production than Contenders League." That's what.
Sorry, we just lost you a little bit there at the end.
We lost you a little bit there.
Yeah, for some reason my headset is cutting out right now. I might have to switch it out.
So any of the other big takeaways from Yukatsu that's going to lead into what your next moves are?
My next moves, yeah. I mean, look, the pandemic has kind of trampled all over dozens of
Mm-hmm.
businesses, and there's no going around it, right? And now we're in the second wave where California is now reclosing a lot of these businesses, and it has made quite a tremendous impact on us. So my plan of action is to rebuild in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if I can keep Yukatsu as a name, but what I do know is that I'm the only one left in this venture. We have several shareholders of Yukatsu, so it's a give and take process. But at the same time, I know that I found a new sense of purpose by doing this, and I'm already started. The first thing I did was set up this computer area so that I can get back online with the kids and start interacting with them. And I don't want to forget the parents either. So I don't know what exactly the name will be, but you can bet that there will be a person named Joe who still cares about the family, still cares about the kids, still cares about the mission, that wants to see this done in a way that's the ethical, right way to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a cash grab. We're talking about real lives being impacted at an early age, where we can fight. We can fight obesity. We can fight depression, anxiety, poor sportsmanship. That is, toxicity in gaming is a huge problem that we're just now seeing. Sexual assault, sexual abuse, all of these problems are not being addressed, and they absolutely can be with the vessel of esports and gaming. And so you can bet that I'll still be making some YouTube videos pretty soon about it all.
So how do we address you for your name now? Because I don't know if I don't know if I can look up on Twitch Yukatsu Joe anymore.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm still, I'm taking a couple weeks off because it's been 3 years of 12 to 14-hour days, and maybe even more. But I think I'm gonna keep Joe as a part of it all, just because it's my name. It's easy to remember.
Yeah.
I might incorporate my last name too. I don't know yet, but you'll see soon. And
how about Not Your Average Joe? That's perfect.
There is actually somebody that's kind of named that already in the gaming space. There's another one that's a Smash player is named Just Joe. That's like literally Just Joe. And so I got to play around with what's going on here. I was thinking of things like Coach Joe, because I've been a coach for 2 seasons, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I show that I'm learning through this process. I'm not just mentoring and coaching. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
We're never really done growing. I'm not there. I'm not perfect by any means. But I want to set an example for our kids, and then also for the peers around me, the adults too.
Okay, so moving forward, you kind of want to do what you've been doing with Ukatsu, but more on like a virtual basis.
We're going to start with virtual, yes, because the overhead is zero.
Yeah,
If you have a physical location, you got about $5,000 you have to pay out.
yeah, yeah. That
So, oh, sorry, Josh. Go.
no, no, go for it.
Oh no.
Yeah, about
So, as far as like taking the virtual experience of Yukatsu and then streaming and everything, do you have a timeline, or is it just, you know what, I'm gonna do this if it until I think it's time, or do you have like a timeline in your head where you're like, okay, I can only do this for X amount before I need to really make the next move again?
I think for me personally, I'll begin to build my personal influence as one of these leaders in the youth gaming space and also the adult, what's the right word, digital citizen space for the gaming atmosphere. But I think YouTube is definitely where I'm going to start out with when it comes to in-person things. As soon as schools roll back around, I plan on reaching out to all the PTAs so that they know about the health and safety precautions they should take when it comes to unsupervised young gamers. I want to help everyone, and yeah, I think obviously social media is going to be a very heavy part of it to get the word out there. And I've kind of been framing myself. I've been playing around with this idea, but you guys know Mr. Rogers. He had the children's show for I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah,
20, 30 years on PBS. I think maybe a tween, teen/adult version of Mr. Rogers in the gaming space is what we kind of need right now.
yeah, yeah.
Somebody that can be a good example, who can do it all, who can encourage people to balance themselves. That's what I'm aiming for.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, organizations, especially larger organizations, can kind of, I mean, once you start moving everything, maybe they start to see the impact it makes, and they start making changes within their own organizations to kind of protect these athletes. Uh,
I hope so. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers and pro orgs, they know, but they don't address the fact that most of their viewers, if not 80% of their viewers, are probably kids between the ages of like 12 to 16.
yeah,
Hmm.
Especially for Fortnite, uh, they are lining up their pockets. Like kids are lining up these huge millionaire gamers' pockets, and the content that they produce doesn't really address that at all. They're still calling each other, they're still calling high pitched voices on their game squeakers, right? That's I would say, a derogatory term towards people who can't help that their Adam's apple and their
yeah,
their puberty hasn't hit yet. Why should we be making fun of kids who simply cannot help the fact that they are 10 years old? Right?
yeah,
We've seen content creators that blame a lot of Fortnite's downfall on 10-year-olds, catering to 10-year-olds. But I know a lot of 10-year-olds that are just as passionate about the competitive scene. They're cranking 90s, they're doing retakes, they're doing tunneling, they're doing all these things, and it's not fair to those kids. So I want to make sure that there is a voice for the kids too, because there's such a huge viewership from them.
Hmm. And you talked about toxicity,
Oh yeah.
and what would you start first to try to eliminate the problem of people being toxic the over online? Like, what were you doing specifically in Yukatsu to address that right away?
Look, the solution is simple. It's not necessarily easy, but it is simple,
Hmm.
which is just to be a good example. You have to. So again, I put in a lot of time into these video games because I love them too. But at the same time, it is also to earn that respect for the kids who they watch the best players. So if you're a good player, they want to learn from you, and they want to learn not just how you play, but how you behave and how you respond to things. And over time, these influencers online right now, they don't really they don't get the fact that every time that they rage, they put out another rage compilation. I get that it's entertaining, but a very big influence into what
yeah,
the kids are actually doing from their homes. We've heard of so many horror stories of kids breaking their keyboards and mice after after losing in Fortnite, and you're like, oh, I saw Mongrel do it.
Yeah, yeah. I think playing COD and hearing those the kill audio. You know how it shows like when you kill someone, it's for like 5 seconds. The audio's open. You always we
Yeah.
always give a little chuckle when you hear someone smashing their desk
No.
or keyboard. It's
And
Yeah.
the thing is too, it's perfectly fine to be emotional, right, about something that you care about. That's what
Yeah.
we're saying. It's how you present yourself, what the context is behind it. Are you going to carry anger and frustration through everything that you do in life whenever you encounter a bump in the road or a loss? Because that's not healthy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're trying to pop off because you did something amazing and you want to celebrate yourself and your own accomplishments, right? Take that as an example instead of saying, "Oh, this kid's trash," "Oh, I just dunked on this trash player."
Yeah.
You could boast yourself up, and it is a moment for confidence building rather than putting somebody else down. Those are just those little tweaks that we can all do to help ourselves and to set a better example, because what we're doing now clearly is not working, right?
Yeah.
Like, I get that some moments are exciting. I get that we have a lot of great clips and great compilations, but like, you're seeing pro players who are tweeting every single night around 2 or 3 a.m. that they're sad, depressed, lonely, unfulfilled. Like, hello? That's why you're seeing other organizations like Healthy Gamer GG, who's, that guy's a psychiatrist or a psychologist talking about mental well-being and all of that stuff. And now it's time for an actual influencer who is pretty decent at video games. I'm not the best by any means, but it's time for them to step up and to be a better influence for our kids.
Yeah.
So, what are your plans for, like? Are you gonna try to get back into competitive gaming? Are you just gonna try to create content? What is Joe, whatever tag, gamer tag next, doing to set himself up for the next stage?
Yeah, so I mean, I think professional competitive, those days, those aspirations are over for me personally.
Okay.
Um, just because I know that the time commitment is, quite frankly, 12 to 14 hours a day right now.
Yeah.
If you want to really make it up to the top, there's no denying that yet, and maybe that will change when maybe regulations are set in place so that kids don't have to sacrifice so much in their lives just to be a top professional player. Um, but for me, yeah, I want to be decent at all the video games. I've been thinking like plat/gold in every single game that I play, or I'm sorry, plat/diamond in every single game that I play, which is actually on par with what I'm doing right now. Even when I had a physical building to run while being the CEO, while doing meetings and things, like, I was at a plat level for pretty much every game that I was into: Rainbow, League, Overwatch, Fortnite, if there was a ranking system, and now Valorant too. So yes, I will be doing that. I'm not going to be joining any teams, for a competitive space, but I've been playing around with ideas like, hey, what if I played on an Overwatch, or excuse me, a Valorant team that I started, and I did tryouts with these kids or mentors, and then we did a YouTube series of how this team improved themselves to be an average diamond team, right? Those are lessons that we could teach along the way to these individuals, and then share that with the rest of the world through a YouTube series.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that sounds really incredible. I'm actually pretty hyped for you to do all of that so I can watch that series.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
you listed off a few games there. Out of all those games you kind of listed, what are your more like preference towards? It sounds like a lot of first person shooters. But what really are your like favorite games there?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up. My first ever competitive game was Call of Duty. Call of Duty One on the PC. It was a World War II shooter where you just played search and destroy up to 16 points, best of 3 rounds.
Hmm.
It's a
Wow.
lot like Counter Strike, to be honest. And sometimes those scrims would last 3.5 hours. So first-person shooters have a very special place in my heart. That's why Valorant, in particular, is extremely appealing to me. So that's probably going to be one of my top 2 or 3 games that I'm going to commit myself to. League of Legends is my MOBA of choice. Not to say anything against Dota or anything, Smite. And so I think League, Valorant, Overwatch, only because it's so popular in the youth space. I like Overwatch a lot. It's a very team dominant game. It's very hype. And so those are probably the top three. I'm thinking about Rocket League, but I know they just had a lot of changes recently that might impact them negatively. I don't know for certain if they're going to be thriving unless
Okay.
they go free to play. So yeah, I play them all. There's not a single type. I'm not like that type of person. It's like, oh, I don't play these kinds
Like
of
you
games.
only
Fighting
play,
games, Super
yeah.
Smash Bros. I really love, as well as the 2D.
Madden, NBA.
Those kinds of games as well. Sports games. I'm not like that kind of a gamer either. I see for country music, right? Oh, I listen to everything except for country music. And then for gamers, like hardcore gamers, it's like, oh, I play everything except sports games are trash. No, I'm not like that at all. I used to play the Madden, 2K, all of that, all the time, and so it's great.
That's awesome. And your like go-to platform is PC, right?
Go-to platform is PC now. Yeah,
Okay.
just because it's the most it's got most of the games on it, right? Most of the competitive games. And if you want to plug in a controller, you're absolutely welcome to.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of esports titles that are specifically catered towards consoles other than Call of Duty and Halo. So those, I mean, those games are also great too. I have a lot of fun with those. And even Call of Duty, you can play on PC nowadays, and that's where I think it's getting skewed with thanks to Warzone. So all in all, yeah, PC first and foremost, and if I've got the extra cash, maybe I'll pick up a console too.
Okay, very nice. And your PC, is it custom?
Oh yeah. We have a custom built PC right underneath here. We had some
Beautiful.
partnership with some business partners, and we were not able to liquidate maybe one or two computers, so I still have some pre-builts. But that's something that we did too. We taught a lot of kids how to build their own computers, what the parts meant, how to maintain, and how to exchange the parts. Those are all skill sets that you can learn while being a fan of gaming. You know,
Yeah.
there's so many applications.
Well, that's how you continue being a gamer. Because if your rig goes down or if something's messing with it, I mean, you're almost done unless you know how to repair it. And if you take it somewhere, they could charge you a crap ton of money
That's right.
just to have something fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Joe, I think we're getting a little close on time, but the last thing I wanted to ask was: is there anything you want from us as far as like putting your name out there? What your anything that we can do as far as helping you get back to where or get on the right path that helps you get to a place faster?
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that too. And I guess for now, since I don't know what the official title of anything is going to be, follow me on Twitter. Twitter is probably where I'll put out a lot of my
Okay.
announcements, a lot of my engagements. I know that's predominantly how esports connections are formed and relayed.
Yeah.
So if you follow me on Twitter, it's still at Yukatsu Joe right now.
Okay.
And it'll probably be like that for a little bit until I come out with the official next name.
Okay.
Something Joe. I don't know what it will be. But yeah, that would be a great way.
Awesome.
Well, we just
Awesome.
want to thank you so much for coming onto the show. I think our listeners really learned a lot about toxicity in esports, the solutions that we can take going forward. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on and speaking about that.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Thanks, Lane, for having me. It's been great.
Good to see you, Joe. Have a good weekend or
Yeah,
last day of the weekend.